What's that smell? It's football. There's football in the air. Can you believe it? Welcome into a new edition of the Belly Up Sports Fantasy Live football show on the Belly Up Sports Network, presented by RotoBot AI. We are talking not about preseason rankings. We're not talking about what may happen in 3 to 4 to 8 weeks. No, what we're talking about is football that's going to kick off Thursday night. Then there's more of it on Friday. Then there's a quick break for college football on Saturday. Then we're back at it on Sunday and Monday. And by the show next week, there will be people crying about how bad their week was and people in great joy over how great their week was. I'm Vince Stover, host of the Sports Stove Football Show. I am joined, as I am every week, by the expert panel at bellyupsports.com, the senior writer from bellyupsports.com, Kevin Wilson, up there on the top, and the co-host of the 3rd and 10 podcast, Brian Germinaro, on the bottom. Kev, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Vince. I am absolutely stoked to get this rolling. And this weekend, NFL has to be better than my college football weekend was. So I am definitely looking forward to that.
Speaking of bad college football weekends, Brian Germinaro, how you doing, Brian?
I'm better. I'm better after Saturday night. Listen, whoever said Christmas is the happiest time of the year was wrong. Right now is the happiest time of the year because we are staring down the barrel of 5 straight days of football, gentlemen, and it's going to be tremendous.
It is.
It is indeed. We are a fantasy football show. We all talk football on other podcasts, so we'll refrain from talking too much college football, but boy, what a weekend it was. Just enough to get our blood primed and pumped for the NFL season.
Perfect appetizer for it.
Yes. And for you guys, the downfall of your teams, Clemson and Notre Dame, now gives you all this hope that you're going to pour into your NFL teams. For Kevin, the Seahawks, for Brian, the Giants. And by the time we do the show next week, you might be down in the dumps from that one too. We just don't know. But one way or the other, we'll still be talking fantasy football and scores and starts and sits and all kinds of other things along the way. It's going to be an absolute blast to do. Today, we've got a full show for you, and we're going to start off. We're going to talk some handcuffs, what you need to do to be prepared for the season ahead. And then we've got some NFL news to discuss. We've got starts and sits to talk about in every single division. And then we have a new segment that we're going to do, Beat the Bot, to give you an opportunity to be smarter than a robot. And we'll see if you can do that tonight. Let's get things kicked off with our first segment. We call it the lead block. All right, this week on the lead block, what we're talking about is handcuffs. And what we mean by that, as defined by the internet, a handcuff in fantasy football is a backup player who is expected to fill a significant role for a team's primary starter if that starter is injured, suspended, or otherwise unavailable. A lot of times when I think of handcuffs, I think of guys paired up on the same team. That's not necessarily the case. But that's overall, we're looking at backup running backs that we think, hey, this might be someone to either pick up or somewhere to keep an eye on and flag. This might be the most likely scenario to go down. We have some specific examples if you guys don't hit on them, but I have a feeling we will. And so let's talk about some handcuff options this season. And Kevin, I want to start with you on this one, and I want to see if you go where I think you're going. And if not, hopefully someone will. And if not, I will. So where are you going with your handcuff option here heading into the season?
Okay, so I'm going to go with a handcuff, which I actually did, in fact, draft, much to Dustin's chagrin. And, of course, I'm talking about Zach Charbonnet.
Yes.
And when it comes to handcuffs, I want a guy that's not just going to play when the lead guy's hurt. Because then you've got no value unless the guy gets hurt. But I think Zach Charbonnet is going to be playing no matter how well Kenneth Walker plays. They're going to play off each other. They're both going to be in the game. And if something was to happen to Kenneth Walker, he'll step right in because that's exactly what he did. And when Walker missed 6 games, he got in there, 569 yards rushing, 340 receiving and 9 total touchdowns. Now, when it comes to handcuffs, it doesn't get any better than this. And so whether or not you've drafted, especially if you've drafted Kenneth Walker, you need to look at this guy later on in the draft because he's going to have value all season long. So he's got to be the first guy I'm going to go to.
And that's where I thought you were going, Kevin. I'm glad that you did because I'm with you on that one too. I think he's the highest end at the moment handcuff that's out there. I think there's some other good ones too, though, but I like that one a lot. Brian, who's the first one on your list?
Well, similar to Kevin, I was looking at my favorite team because we have a handcuff situation as well, and it's Cam Scatterboo. Look, I've been saying it all year in this show. Cam Scatterboo might not have the yards to be that solid running back fantasy, but he's going to put up those touchdown numbers. We're going to see stat lines. We're probably going to have like 30 to 40 yards and 2 touchdowns. These are perfect kind of flex, bench player to have to fill in during the bye weeks and really give your lineup that boost when they need it.
Yeah, I like it. I look at, what running back is most likely to get injured? And I go to Christian McCaffrey right off the bat on that one. If he doesn't get injured, great. That's wonderful for whoever drafts him because it'll be a great year for him. But the signing of Brian Robinson Jr. got me a little excited for Brian Robinson Jr. in the case that McCaffrey goes down. He'll get some touches anyway, but the likelihood, the chances, it is a true 50-50 chance that McCaffrey goes down at some point this season, and it might even be higher up on the injury side of things. I don't know. But I like Brian Robinson Jr. I like that fit in San Francisco. I like the opportunity that could be there as well. So he's a name I keep my eye on, especially now that he's been moved. I like him actually better now than I liked him in Washington because I wasn't going to draft him in Washington. And now I kind of say, hey, no, the right opportunity presents itself. I like Brian Robinson Jr. So we'll see how that goes. All right, Kev, give us another one.
So, you just mentioned him because I did take CMC.
Yeah.
At the turn in the second round. If I had known that Brian Robinson was going to get traded to the 49ers, I would have certainly have gone and got him because, as you mentioned, there's a pretty good chance that he gets hurt. And even if he doesn't, I think Brian Robinson is going to get some carries. They don't want to take CMC down to the stubs. And so I think he's going to get some carries, and there'll be meaningful carries as well. And but that's an easy one. So the second one I'm going to go with is Braylon Allen out of the New York Jets.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the Lions offensive guy that came over to the New York Jets ran a system where 2 running backs were fantasy relevant.
True.
Okay. He wasn't the offensive coordinator, but he was very involved in that offense. So I think both of these guys are going to get theirs. And there's been questions about, his name escapes me, Brees. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Brees Hall.
And Brees Hall and his name is not as high as it has been in the past. So, but I think both of these guys are going to be in the game. So if you've got Hall, then this guy would be a good one to go with, and maybe even if you don't have him. And I think there's some value to be had here because, like I said, both of these guys are going to be. If it comes anywhere close to what Detroit did, there's value here.
I like it. I like it a lot. All right, Brian, what's next for you?
I have Trey Benson from the Cardinals, and he's kind of a guy that is probably going to start for the handcuff, but might has the opportunity to take that RB1 job from James Conner. James Conner is 30 years old, and we didn't see a lot from Benson last year, but when we did see him, he looked good. Like the game against the Bears, 8 rushes for 37 yards and a touchdown. Against the Jets, 10 rushes for 62 yards. They've already talked about they're going to put him more in this offense. I can see a world where in the beginning of the season he's that handcuff, but by the end he's getting the majority of the touches in that offense. He's only 23 years old. Not a lot of hits on him. I think he's got a lot of upside late in drafts.
I haven't taken Trey Benson in any of my drafts, but as I've come to the end of every one, for whatever reason, that name has jumped out, and I thought, well, I'm gonna hold off on it for now. But there is something enticing about that name, and I'm interested to see. James Conner has been, consistent. He's been really good in Arizona. To me, he's always kind of overachieved from where most people have him ranked and things like that. He's been solid. So, but we see with running backs when they start to fall off, It is a fast fall off. And so, I like that one a lot too, Brian. I go back to injury-prone running backs, and it leads me to Alvin Kamara, who I absolutely love, but he's been injured several times in his career. Last year, they brought in a guy, Kendre Miller, who we like, a lot of skill there. I thought maybe Devin Neal would have a chance to do something in the camp and preseason to sneak into those touches a little bit. Doesn't seem like he has. And Kendre Miller seems to be the guy at number 2 for New Orleans. And New Orleans is going to need desperately a good run game. And so that means they might overuse Kamara and he gets hurt. That might mean that they decide to split some carries and give Miller some extra touches. Either way, I think he's a safe handcuff in your fantasy leagues right now in New Orleans. And the potential there is really, really good because no one's talking about the Saints in fantasy football. No one likes the quarterback situation. No one likes the running back situation. They like Kamara, but they don't like the receivers, the tight ends, all that stuff. So, and when you're getting into drafts and you get into things, people are kind of ignoring New Orleans as a whole for the most part. And I think Kendre Miller is an interesting option, especially if Kamara goes down and gets dinged up even a little bit. They're going to need to spell him some this season. So, all right, Kevin, anybody else you want to mention?
Okay, so one guy, and that's Jordan Mason over there in Minnesota.
Yeah.
As Kevin O'Connell has gone on the record of saying that Aaron Jones is 1A and Jordan Mason is 1B. And Aaron Jones is 31 years old, kind of the same thing that Brian was talking about. And I can imagine a scenario where he gets worn down and then they're going to turn to Mason at some point and they're going to switch that so that he's 1A. And even if that doesn't happen, 1A and 1B in Minnesota's offense, as long as J.J. McCarthy doesn't go up there and just jack it all up, it's a good offense. And so I think both of these guys will be able to generate some fantasy value regardless of anyone getting hurt or any of that stuff. So if you can get Jordan Mason a little bit later in the draft, I think that's something that's worth looking into.
I like it. Brian, you got another name for us?
No one really on the top of my head. I mean, maybe an interesting guy like an A.J. Dillon could have a renaissance in Philadelphia if they decide to move the ball away from Saquon Barkley because, like we said, when running backs fall off, they fall off hard. And if you're going to feed Saquon like that, it might not be a bad idea to work in Dillon, who had success in an RB2 role in, a Packers offense that had Aaron Jones for years. So I don't know if he's going to be a draft-worthy guy, maybe someone you watch on the waiver wire, but I wouldn't be surprised if Dillon has a couple impact fantasy games coming down the stretch.
All right. Former Packer. I've watched and cheered him on before. So I like that one, of course, as well. Well, last week we introduced a new sponsor into our show, RotoBot AI. And RotoBot AI is a really intriguing company. First of all, let me tell you what they have to say, right? RotoBot AI is an AI fantasy football platform that equips users to make decisions faster and smarter. RotoBot AI is able to recognize each user's unique scenario and tailor roster advice based on that. Sit starts, trades, waivers, and then on top of that, there's a whole data element that AI gives you as well. If you download the RotoBot AI app and use the code BELLYUP, you're going to receive 1 week free of subscription there to RotoBot AI. And what's really cool that I found with them, it actually connects to your fantasy teams on 3 different platforms. And so you can hook up your team to it. So when you ask questions, it specifically tailors it to your roster without you having to be very specific about your roster and things like that. So we've introduced it last week. We have a new segment. We call it Ask the Bot. All right, so for Ask the Bot this week, we're talking about handcuffs. So I got on RotoBot AI, and I typed in this question: what handcuff running back would be best for my roster? I'd already put my roster on there or connected it to my team. The running backs on my team are Jahmyr Gibbs, Trevion Henderson, and Breece Hall in the Belly Up League. And so it popped out this response for me. It says, you're in a redraft league with a strong running back group Jahmyr Gibbs, Travion Henderson, and Breece Hall. Your biggest positional need is running back depth, so targeting a handcuff makes sense. From the waiver recommendations, Kareem Hunt stands out as the best handcuff option. He's a proven veteran with a clear backup role who could see significant touches if the starter is injured. Isaac Guerendo and Marshawn Lloyd are less established and riskier. So given your roster and need for running back insurance, I recommend picking up Kareem Hunt as your top handcuff. He offers immediate upside and stability behind a lead back, fitting perfectly as insurance for your running back core. So there you go. RotoBot AI says Kareem Hunt is a great pickup. Obviously, he has a history. He's played some games. He's in an offense where we think Pacheco's the guy, but we've seen Kansas City use a variety of guys over the years too. And if Pacheco, who was injured last year, Kareem Hunt's going to step in and get a ton of touches as well. So there you go. The advice from RotoBot AI. Again, if you download the RotoBot AI app, you see the logo down there at the bottom left of the screen. And if you use the code BELLYUP, you're going to receive 1 free week at RotoBot AI. So go ahead, get in there, get in that code, go ahead and get your free week. Try it out. Put your roster in there, connect it to your roster, and play around with it here in these first week. And then let us know what you think about it as well. We'd surely appreciate that. And we greatly appreciate the fine folks at RotoBot AI for choosing to partner with us here on the Belly Up Fantasy Live Football Show each and every week this season. All right, guys, let's go into segment number 2. We call it the Cover 2. All right, so let's talk some NFL news. And outside of there being games this week, there hasn't been a ton of craziness going on, which is kind of nice, I think. But we had a few moves that I wanted to bring up to you guys and get your thoughts on. I want to start, both of them are receiver moves, actually. The Vikings in desperate need of wide receiver help because of the Jordan Addison suspension and some other injuries that have taken place. They go out and they bring back Adam Thielen. And I got to admit, it seems like a really good move for all sides, in my opinion. So, Brian, talk about Adam Thielen back to the Vikings, fantasy-wise, real football-wise. Like, how do you think this goes?
I think it's a really good real football move because this is a guy that's familiar with the Vikings organization, was a top receiver there for years. Give JJ McCarthy as many weapons as possible for him to succeed in the offense. Fantasy-wise, maybe you get like the first couple weeks with, Jordan Addison on suspension. Maybe that's when Thielen might give you like a flash from the past. But outside of that, I don't really see him having much upside. He'll be a wide receiver 3, probably like the 4th receiving option in that offense behind Hawkinson. I think he's kind of that boomer bust player. It's probably going to bust every single week. It's fun for someone like me throwing it back to 2015. A lot of receivers going back to their old team for 2015. But outside of the nostalgia, it's kind of nothing.
Yeah. Kevin, your thoughts on it?
Well, for the Vikings, to me, this makes sense because Jordan Addison's out.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at this, because he had 48 catches, but 37 of those came in the last 6 weeks of the season. And so he's still able to produce. On the Panthers side, I really don't understand this because Bryce Young started to play well, and that absolutely coincided with the increase that the Thielen had. So if I'm the Panthers, I don't think I make this. I know they love McMillan, and I do too, but that veteran guy down there I thought made more sense. But as far as fantasy concerns on the Vikings, if you get him, because you can get him a little bit later, and he's going to be there for 3 weeks, and then after that, maybe if he does well, maybe you can talk him up and get somebody to make a trade for him and get something worth back and, play down. Well, he's going to be, as Brian said, the number 4 option in that offense. Don't need to be mentioning that. But if he does well, and I think he can, in those first 3 games, show out and then move him for something that you need. And I think that would work.
Yeah, I think I'm not drafting Adam Thielen, and the most productive he's going to be is in those first 3 weeks because you've got injury issues with Naylor, who's probably not going to play this week. They lost Hollywood Brown, who they brought in. And so he's done for the year. You got the suspension from Jordan Addison. There's nobody there. Ty Felton, I mean, okay. So there's nobody there right now. When Addison comes back, if Thielen can play, balls to the wall here in the first 3 weeks, he still holds a valuable role, I think, in that offense. But does he have enough time to kind of get reacquainted, get things going? Is McCarthy going to be good enough in that time frame to make it worth it? I lean probably not. I love the nostalgia of a veteran receiver going back to where he, made magic happen. And I do love that. I like it for JJ McCarthy. I think to have that veteran, just like you were talking about with Bryce Young, to have that for JJ McCarthy now is a really good thing to go along with the best receiver in football, and Justin Jefferson too. So I think it's good in that sense. The Panthers seem to have made the decision. They think the best way to improve their young players is to get them on the field. And Thielen took up time on the field. He took up snaps because he deserved to be on the field. Now you're looking at guys where obviously Tet McMillan and Xavier Legette were going to be on the field, but now you've got room for Jimmy Horn to get some more playing time. You've got room for David Moore is going to probably be the guy to start off. It's that third receiver right now as well. And I find it interesting too. They do the whole Hunter Renfrow thing where they brought him in after he was out last year to an illness, and then they bring him back and they cut him, and then they bring him back, and it almost didn't happen because his daughter was watching Bluey and kept declining the phone call.
That story. I did.
That's awesome. But Hunter Renfrow, I think he's not Adam Thielen, of course, as far as veteran and all that kind of stuff goes, but he has been around a little bit, and he doesn't threaten the guys for snaps. So I think they're going to say, let's let the veteran in the locker room and let's let the young guys be on the field. I don't mind it. I don't know that's going to work. But I don't mind it at the same time. It's at some point, I think, especially at receiver, it makes sense to get them on the field. Let's get them out there. Let's let them do their thing. The question is are they going to be good enough for Bryce to be able to establish himself as a long quarterback in Carolina? And, I think we're all on the fence about that. I think we all think he has talent, but are they setting up Bryce Young for success? That's where I'd say probably not.
Yeah, that's the key right there, Vince, to me is if he fails again, it's going to be a miserable season down there in Carolina.
Yeah, they'll have a new quarterback next year. Maybe Lenore Sellers, who looked good on Saturday. Maybe a Cade Klubnik, who didn't look good on Saturday. Maybe someone else.
We don't need to talk about that.
But, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see. The signing I did like this week was Gabe Davis going back to Buffalo. Because the Buffalo receiver situation just does not make sense to me at all. So, Kevin, when you look at Gabe Davis coming back, what do you think this does for Josh Allen, for the team as a whole, and fantasy-wise for Gabe Davis?
It really doesn't move the needle for me because even when he was at his, he might come out and give you 30 points one week, but then the next week he'll give you, 3. And he's a guy that could stretch the defense. I don't know if he can do that as well. Probably not. But so if it was any other wide receiver room, I don't think this would work whatsoever. But because I got Stephon Diggs expected to play, so that's good.
That's New England.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All right, I'm getting ahead of myself. So it doesn't.
You got Keon Coleman, second-year guy out of Florida State.
Right.
You got Josh Palmer comes over
around a little bit. So, but as soon as I sit there and say, okay, I want this guy on my fantasy team, and then he goes down the toilet. It happens every single time. And so
Kevin, we call that the Kevin curse.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And so if I stay
not
away,
his fault, Kevin.
If I stay away from him, maybe he produces here. And so I'm not in on him, even with the room that they have, but I just cannot see buying into him being a very productive wide receiver this year.
All right, Brian, Gabe Davis to Buffalo. What does it do for you?
Well, I don't think Gabe Davis is going to be a reliable fantasy option. Like Kevin said, he's so versatile. It's 30 points or bust. Like, that's not someone you want. in terms of the Bills and like someone like Josh Allen, I think it helps a lot because the receiver room, especially wide receiver 2, was a pretty big question. Like Shakir broke out last year, but we don't know if he's going to be able to repeat. I like him, but again, question marks. Coleman, we don't know. And outside of that, it's a bunch of unproven guys. So bringing somebody that Josh Allen had chemistry with in the past. We all remember that great game in Kansas City where I think he caught 4 touchdown passes. Have that
in like 8
chemistry there.
seconds or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Have that chemistry, have that relationship with him, and I think it's going to make him more comfortable and just give him that safety blanket guy that he just kind of doesn't have right now.
I agree with that sentiment. I think that, I look at it and go, I like Josh Palmer, but it's like when you look at Buffalo and you say, all right, you have the offseason, go get better. And on offense, they don't really do anything. They putt around with their running back for most of the offseason, finally sign him. But receiver-wise, if your big acquisition is Josh Palmer, like something's missing here, and I'm not sure that you can say they got better. Are they still going to be really good? Yes. Why? Because they got Josh Allen and James Cook. They're going to be really good. But Gabe Davis comes in. I think he does give that security blanket. I'm interested to see. I drafted Keon Coleman right before the show in a draft, and he was my 5th or 6th wide receiver that I drafted. And I thought, you know what? Let's take a shot at him at this point because I don't have to put him in my lineup. And if he finally does something, I got him at a great value. But I again look at Buffalo and I go, my goodness, like how do you not go out? Look at Cincinnati a couple years ago. All right, you can draft the left tackle of the future. No, we're going to go get Jamar Chase. All right, so then what are we going to do? We're going to string along T. Higgins with the franchise tag, but we're going to keep him here. So now we've got Jamar Chase and we've got T. Higgins. They had a couple of years there where they had a 3-headed monster at wide receiver, and now they found this guy that's playing really good for them as their 3rd wide receiver that has a really hard name to pronunciate. But they said, let's go all in on offense. And what happens? Listen, I know they struggle on defense, but they have a really good offense. And they're not, well, Burrow's getting hit, so he's getting hurt still, but they're not running Burrow like Josh Allen's running in Buffalo. But Josh Allen has to run in Buffalo because the offense isn't good enough unless he does run. So why not go out and address it? Why not go out and get some wide receivers? And Brian, I want to come back to you on this because your co-host on the 3rd and 10 podcast got a little snippy on Twitter this week. And so there was a question someone posted and saying that the Giants were arguably the worst wide receiver room in the NFL. And your co-host, Nathan Nguyen, he says, like to hear who you'd want to get that's realistic and available. Well, I didn't stick around to see what this guy had to say, but I commented a few guys. I said, well, there's Amari Cooper. Not now. He signed with Vegas, but he was available. I said there was Hunter Renfrow there for a little while. There's Odell Beckham. Why not? Bring him back, right?
No. It's a disaster waiting to happen.
No.
There's Michael Gallup.
Okay.
There's Marquez Callaway. There's Gabe Davis. All that are better, not better than neighbors. Now, I love Wan'Dale Robinson. I think he's solid too. I don't mind Slayton, especially as a 3. I like him better as a 4, but he's fine as a 3. But then you're talking about Bo Collins, Jalen Hyatt, who I wish would succeed, but he hasn't yet. Gunnar Olszewski,
he's a punt return, kick return specialist is what he's going to do.
Okay. So when you look at Buffalo's wide receiver room, you look at the Giants wide receiver room, my point is there's not a lot of difference in the talent levels in these two rooms. The Giants are better than Buffalo, in my opinion. And yeah. Brian, you being a Giants fan, you look at that wide receiver room in the Giants, you can't be completely satisfied, but you got to look when you look at Buffalo, go, yeah, we're better than that.
Oh no, we're 100% better than Buffalo, and I'm not satisfied with the Giants receiver room, but there is so much upside there. Like Wan'Dale can break out and become a solid wide receiver 2 in the slot. Slayton, I don't love Slayton. I think he drops a lot of footballs, but he's just somebody that the team's comfortable with. They're comfortable with him. Let it run it. And Hyatt and Collins is a guy that impressed during the preseason. A rookie. Last time we did something like that, it was Victor Cruz. So who knows? Maybe that's gold strikes, lightning strikes the bottle twice. Yeah. Jalen Hyatt, they gave a 3rd-round pick. It's 3rd year in the league in an offense with, one of the first guys Russell Wilson mentioned in his press conference was Jalen Hyatt. We know Russ likes to throw the ball downfield. So as long as Hyatt can stop dropping every single ball thrown his direction, he can actually be a semi-solid receiver. So there's a lot of upside on the Giants that just hasn't been reached yet. Of course, it could all blow up in our face like it has the past decade.
I was just curious because Nathan did not appreciate any of my suggestions.
The only person I think I'd be interested in is maybe Amari Cooper if they hadn't signed Darius Slayton.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. A couple thoughts there. All right. Any other NFL news you guys want to discuss?
Well, I'm surprised you're not. I know it's been discussed many times, but you haven't talked about Parsons on this show.
Oh, so you mean that the Green Bay Packers got the best defensive player in the league?
Yeah.
You mean that the Cowboys said, hey, we don't want to sign this guy because he hurt the ego of our owner, so we're going to let you have him for 2 first-round picks. That'll probably be like 28 to 30, something to that effect. And we're going to need a 30-year-old defensive tackle because we're going to stop the run, which we'll talk about in a moment.
Okay.
And so we're going to get Kenny Clark. So we win this trade, 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark. And the Packers, all they get is a measly Micah Parsons, who's going to go opposite of Rashawn Gary, who all of a sudden isn't going to get double-teamed this year, who people forget had double-digit sacks the year previously. And all the meantime, hey, but you better watch out. He's going to have to get an injection in his back. And then you watch the video of him blowing up everything in practice, and you realize the Green Bay Packers did okay in this trade. And as a Packer fan, I have to say,
okay,
pretty content with this trade. Kevin, thank you for reminding me.
It has to be the number one topic, especially on this show with you being here. But let me just say this. Okay, Russell Wilson goes from Seattle to Denver. They've got 3 players and 5 draft picks out of it, out of Russell Wilson. So you're telling me that a 26-year-old defensive superstar only can get you 2 first-round draft picks, and as you mentioned, a 29-year-old former Pro Bowl defensive tackle.
Kevin, I'll do you one better. How about the Jamal Adams trade? What did the Seahawks give up?
We don't want to talk about that either.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying. The Seahawks gave up more for Jamal Adams than the Cowboys did for Micah Parsons.
It's because as you all know, because I'm down here in Dallas area.
Yeah.
And it's just like when the Mavericks made their move.
Yeah.
And it's not quite to that level, even though it kind of is, because that's the kind of level that Micah Parsons was on.
The shock value isn't there. Like, out of nowhere isn't there.
Because they just appeared out of nowhere when it came to Luka and all that. But remember, 4 weeks before this, what did Jerry Jones say? Don't lose sleep over this because we're going to get this taken care of.
Well, he did get it taken care of.
Yes, it did get taken care of, but just not in the way. And as you said, we made this move so we can stop the run. What?
Yeah, I don't know what that was. You had a 50 Pro Football Focus grade in running. I know that's not the end all be all, but that's not great.
It'd be like if you traded Deion Sanders because you needed to stop the run. That makes sense because Deion Sanders is never going to stop the run.
No,
but Micah Parsons, on the other hand, I know he's not a defensive tackle, but come on now.
Right. But he could be a defensive tackle, depending on where he lines up on the field.
Yeah.
But and so what's going to happen here is because the other defensive players on the Cowboys found their way to the quarterback. Why? Because the other guy was getting double teamed.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen anymore. And so all of a sudden, the stats and stuff that these other guys were generating aren't going to be there because they are going to have one-on-one defenders all over the field.
Yeah.
They don't have to double team Kenny Clark, that's for sure. And so,
well, I will say this in defense to Kenny Clark, not in defense.
I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm not saying that at all.
Clark, he did have to get double teamed all the time. And when they drafted Wyatt in Green Bay to add to that defensive line, that helped out a lot. But Clark is a beast, and he is an awesome locker room dude. He is legit. He is a pro's pro. And,
no question about that. But he's going to be 30 years old.
He is 30 years old, and he plays defensive tackle. Like, he's not Aaron Donald. And because that's the only defensive tackle, maybe back in the day in Ndamukong Suh. Like, there just aren't tackles that change the game that often. Chris Jones has done it in Kansas City until they kind of moved him around more too. So you cannot justify it. It doesn't make sense. When I got the Nate, your co-host, messaged me and said, "Dude, Parsons to the Packers," and I was like, "No way."
Yeah.
Looked it up. Sure enough, texted my dad. First question he asked was the first thought I had: "What are we giving up?" And I said, "All I can see right now is 2 first-round picks. I'm sure there's more. That's all they're saying at the moment." Kind of waited through it. Finally came across Kenny Clark, and I thought, listen, I love Kenny Clark, but I would ship Kenny Clark for Micah Parsons any day of the week.
Yeah.
And,
Absolutely.
I didn't want to lose Rashawn Gary, but I thought that's what we'd have to give up. I thought Rashawn Gary would have to go in order for Parsons to come over. And now that you got bookends for the Packers defensive line, it's crazy. And you say, well, yeah, but now they don't have Kenny Clark. Now they got to play this Wooten guy. Okay, who cares? It's a defensive tackle. We got linebackers behind him. It's okay.
I think Micah Parsons will make up for whatever that guy does.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so, play a 3-4 or something like that,
Yeah.
So, and it here we are, 5 days later now.
Yeah.
And had time to, because the Dallas Morning News let them have it, and as they should have. And
the best one they extended the corner like the next day, given $92 million.
Right. And so,
it's like, what are we doing here, guys?
So, we're at a loss.
Yeah.
And Dustin, he does a really great Jerry Jones impression. Okay. And he sounded off on Seahawks sessions pretty well on this whole trade scenario. And if I'm the Seahawks, if all I knew that was going to take was 2 first-round picks, and you could pick whatever defensive tackle you want off our team,
yeah,
I would do that.
Jerry Jones, the last month and a half, the stuff Jerry Jones has said has been so wacky.
Yeah.
And in his response, I watched or listened to his press conference, and he basically said, listen, we need to do better at stopping the run. So that was number one in our trade talks, was a defensive tackle that could help us stop the run. And I'm just sitting there going, yeah, but what about a running back? What about linebackers? What about edge rushers? There's so many things that influence the game. Defensive tackle is just not it. And if you got Kenny Clark plus another stud player, okay, but you didn't. And man, this will go down in history for sure against Jerry Jones. And I think when they make his Hall of Fame case, they're going to go, wait a second, you traded Micah Parsons.
His bust probably needs to be removed from the Hall of Fame.
Right.
It's already there.
Right. But it's always going to be talked about, right? When Micah Parsons goes into the Hall of Fame, what are they going to talk about?
Yeah.
They're not going to talk about the 5 Super Bowls he won with Green Bay. They're going to talk about the fact that Jerry Jones traded him. Okay, now I'm getting a little carried away.
Yeah,
but nonetheless, he's only got 4 years on this contract. So the 4 Super Bowls he wins with Green Bay.
Wow.
But nonetheless, man, it's crazy. He will finish that contract in Green Bay the same age that Kenny Clark is right now. So that's, I don't know. I'm happy.
So who is he going to get traded for back to Dallas?
Right, exactly. That's great. Yeah, Donovan Ezaruku by then will be an all-pro. We can trade him back for him, or who knows. I don't know. It's crazy as it always is.
And somehow Jerry Jones is still going to be running the team by then, because he just. Yes. I have a theory that he won't die.
Yeah, he's part AI himself.
Yeah.
We better be careful with RotoBot sponsoring us now. We don't want to hurt their leader. So let's be careful.
That's a good robot, not the robot in that. Actually, as a Giant fan, I'm on board with Jerry Jones living forever. If he's running the Cowboys, we're good.
Oh, gracious. All right. Thank you for bringing that up.
For
some reason, I was thinking we talked about that last week, but that was on my show on Thursday. So I apologize for not bringing that up too. All right. Any other news you want to discuss?
Nope, that's about it here.
All right. Let's go into segment number 3. We call it the read option. All right. So throughout the offseason, what we've done is we've been doing different players. We're throwing guys, hey, would you take this guy or this guy? But we are now in real live fantasy football mode, and we got games kicking off Thursday night. And so in order to get there, we got to give some advice. And so today we are advising you on sits and starts. And what we're going to do is we're going to go around the horn. Sorry, didn't mean to steal that, but they don't need it anymore.
I don't think they need that anymore.
That's right. That's right.
I don't think they have that anymore.
Around the horn, and we're going to get some starts and sits from each division in the NFL. We're going to start in the NFC East with Brian Germinaro.
The NFC Beast. So my first start is Malik Neighbors. Shocking, I know, but he's torched the Commanders in his career. 19 catches for 186 yards. Lattimore, not great. He's kind of an average guy right now. Give it to him. Second guy is Saquon Barkley. The loss of Micah Parsons. That run defense is already atrocious. It's going to get much worse. Saquon Barkley's going to run all over them. And then my final stardom is Jalen Hurts. Similar reasons. He's going to have a lot more time in that pocket to throw. Cowboys have also averaged 200 passing yards last season a game. I think he's going to go off on Thursday. Going to sit him, I'm going to sit Dak Prescott. Hasn't played Philly since 2023, and that defense was not what it was. It's not what it is now, what it was back then. So I think he's going to struggle. And finally, give me Terry McLaurin. The Giants secondary ranked in the top 10 in fewest passing yards per game, and the secondary only got better with Paulson Adebo and Javon Holland. So start Neighbors, Saquon, and Hurts, and bench Prescott and McLaurin.
I like it. NFC South, Kevin Wilson.
Okay, so my starts, I'm going to go with Tet. I'm just going to use Tet McMillan, okay? I know he's a rookie, but he's the wide receiver one down there. And the Jacksonville defense was bottom 5 against wide receivers. And I'm going to go with Chuba Hubbard, his teammate, because Jacksonville was 25th against running backs. And my last starts, Alvin Kamara, New Orleans versus Arizona, I'm sorry. The Cardinals were 20th against running backs, and New Orleans is going to have to do everything they can to keep control the clock and keep Arizona off the field. As far as sits go, Spencer Rattler, there's no chance you're going to start this guy in any game this year, so don't even try it. And let's see, Juwan Johnson, New Orleans, Arizona was the number 1 defense against tight ends a year ago. And then I'm going to bench Michael Penix, Atlanta versus Tampa Bay, because they were 4th in pass defense a year ago. And they're going to be coming out fired up, and he might get his stats and stuff going on. But if you've got a better option, that's one I would look at in this first game.
Oh, Kevin, my gambling friend just lost his mind. You said they come out fired up. He said he hates when people use that term, and I love it every single time. All right, NFC North. I'll take this one. Tucker Kraft, we're going to start him tied in at Green Bay. Green Bay is figuring out which receivers are going to kind of take the lead, but Tucker Kraft is the consistency this year with other guys being injured from last season. That's been proclaimed to be a focal point of the offense this year, the tight end position. Tucker Kraft is going to build off of the great year he had last year. So definitely start Tucker Kraft. Also start Jameson Williams, wide receiver for the Lions. Why? Because the Packers stink against the bomb. Last year, the 3rd worst team in allowing receptions of 25 plus yards in the NFL. And so Jamison Parker is a deep threat. He's gonna take some to the house. And as much as I think it's going to be a great game, I think Jameson Williams will still get you a great fantasy product. And then maybe a little bit of a surprise, Rome Odunze in Chicago. The Vikings play defense very well against the run, very well against the tight end, but the receiver, there's some room to work out there. They've got Luther Burden starting as well. I think that the year playing with Caleb Williams is really going to help Rome Odunze out. And so I like him to start this week. Sits Colston Loveland, tight end for the Chicago Bears. I just mentioned it. The Vikings only allowed 3 touchdowns, the tight ends last season. And it's pretty much the same defense returning. And so in that case, I don't love Colston Loveland in week 1. I like him long-term, but not in week 1 against the Vikings. And then bench, why not JJ McCarthy. I'm not playing JJ McCarthy this week. For the record, I'm not playing him any week. But the Bears really solid against rookie quarterbacks last year, and they played some really good rookie quarterbacks last year. Jaden Daniels, again, they played really well against him last season. So the defensive coordinator, there's some change, of course, there. But the opportunity to tee off against a rookie quarterback in week one, I don't like that for J.J. McCarthy. So I am sitting him as well. Start Kraft, Jameson Williams, Roma Dunze. Go ahead and sit Colson Loveland and J.J. McCarthy this week in the NFC North. Kevin, back to you for the NFC West.
Okay, so my starts, James Conner, Arizona. And because I mentioned that New Orleans is want to keep their offense on the field, but their bad defense is going to do the exact opposite. He averaged 16 fantasy points. Guess what? New Orleans was 24th in fantasy points allowed. And so Marvin Harrison, for the exact same reason, they were 27th against wide receivers. And my last start is Jackson Smith-Njigba of the Seattle Seahawks. And the 49er defense is excellent, but they were 24th against wide receivers in fantasy. So I'm going to start him. My sits, Ricky Pearsall of the 49ers, because there's nothing that inspires about their wide receiver room. And so they're going to try and force the ball to him. It's not going to work. And so the Seattle tight ends, doesn't matter which one we talk about, we're benching all of them. And because San Francisco was number 7 against tight ends in fantasy. And then Tyler Higbee against the Houston Texans. Why? Because Houston's 6th in pass defense. So I don't see that being a very good way to go with him. So there's got to be a better guy you can get in your lineup than him.
I like it. All right, AFC East, back to Brian.
All right, so my first starter is Jalen Waddle of the Miami Dolphins. Look, Miami's offense is pretty banged up right now. We have Tyreek Hill nursing an oblique injury. He's also 31 years old, so who knows how he bounces back. Devon Achane's got a calf injury. Jalen Wright's out multiple weeks. Darren Waddle just sucks. So there's not a lot of offense for Miami. I think he's going to be the main target of that offense on Sunday. Start Waddle. Number 2 is Garrett Wilson of the Jets. He'll be the main similar to Waddle, main passing weapon in that Jets passing game. The Steelers secondary, in my opinion, got worse this offseason, bringing in Jalen Ramsey and losing Micah Fitzpatrick. It's a bad secondary, and it got worse. My third is Drake May of the New England Patriots. The Raiders allowed 216 passing yards per game last season. It's a very top-heavy defense, like outside of Max Crosby. Not much to write home about on that defense. I think May is going to shine in that game. And my sit-ums is James Cook. Ravens defense was the pest last year at stopping the run, and it's pretty much the same unit again. And last year against Baltimore, James Cook had nine touches for 39 yards and 0 touchdowns. I expect a similar result on Sunday night. I'm benching him. And I'm also benching Breece Hall. The Steelers, they might not have a great secondary, but they have a great front 7 led by TJ Watt, only allowed 97 rushing yards a game. I think it's a very similar story. So start Waddle, start Wilson, start May, bench Cook, and bench Hall.
All right, AFC North. Let's go to Pittsburgh. Jaylen Warren, start him. Why? Because he won the job. He's RB1 coming into week 1. I like it. Let's play him. Let's let him get out there and run. Aaron Rodgers is not as spry as he used to be. He's still going to try to throw that ball around, but they're going to depend on that run game. Jaylen Warren, start him this week. David Njoku, tight end, and Cleveland. Why? Because he's familiar. Well, not because he's familiar, because Joe Flacco's familiar with him. And so week 1 matchup, to see those guys connect again, I think David Njoku is a very safe play in Cleveland. In Cincinnati, we know the focal point is the pass game, which means it opens up opportunities for one and only Chase Brown. Start Chase Brown this week against the Browns and let him do his job effectively and well. I think Chase Brown's in for a big week because the focal point is going to be on how do we stop Joe Burrow? How do we stop T. Higgins? How do we stop Jamar Chase? Well, don't forget about Chase Brown running it up the middle. Sit-ems this week, go back to Pittsburgh. Caleb Johnson. I love Caleb Johnson. I love what he can do as a rookie, but his role concerns me currently to start the season. I like Jaylen Warren as a start, and therefore I like Caleb Johnson as a sit. And then tight end Jonnu Smith. I just need more time. Eventually, he could be a play. But in week 1, I don't love it. And still needs time with Rodgers. The offense he'll be fine in. But week 1 might be a little rough for the pass game in Pittsburgh. And so I'm sitting Jonnu Smith and Caleb Johnson, starting Jaylen Warren, David Njoku, and Chase Brown. Obviously, if you needed me to tell you to start Jamar Chase, you probably should have paid closer attention earlier in the season. But definitely start him, of course, as well. All right, AFC South, back to Brian.
So my first starter might be a little bit surprised, but I'm going Travis Hunter. A lot of questions in that Panthers secondary. I think they're going to put a lot of their best, like J.C. Horn, on a guy like Brian Thomas Jr., and it might leave a guy like Hunter exposed. So I'm starting him for that upside. Similar reason why I'm going to start Trevor Lawrence of the Jacksonville Jaguars as well. I think that secondary is questionable. I like what Liam Cohen's done so far. I think he's going to unlock something in Trevor Lawrence you haven't seen yet. I think he's going to go off and have a good first impression. And finally, Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts. Look, I've watched an offense run by Daniel Jones. It only looks good when you have an all-pro running back there. And that is exactly what Jonathan Taylor's going to be. They have to feed him the rock all day, and that's how Indianapolis has a chance of beating the Miami Dolphins. My sit-em, Calvin Ridley. I like Ridley a lot. I think he's having a good season. I like the big play upside. However, very little chemistry with Cam Ward right now, and they're going up against the best secondary in football in the Denver Broncos. That's recipe for disaster. I stay away from right now. My second one is Nick Chubb. Although the Rams were kind of middle of the pack last year in terms of run defense, 3 of their 4 defensive linemen had a 73 or better Pro Football Focus grade in terms of run defense. So I don't like that. I think it's better option. So you start Travis Hunter and Lawrence of the Jaguars. You start Taylor and you sit Calvin Ridley and Nick Chubb.
All right, and then let's wrap it up with the AFC West. Back to Kevin.
Okay, so my first start is Travis Kelce. You know, he might retire at the end of the year, but he's still Travis Kelce. And the Chargers are going to be able to lock down some wide receivers, which I'll get into in a minute. So if you drafted them, you start them, of course. And then my second one's Evan Ingram of the Denver Broncos, because the Tennessee Titans were 29th against tight ends a year ago. And Cortland Sutton, also of the Denver Broncos, because Tennessee was very dead last against wide receivers a year ago. My sits include Omarion Hampton is a guy that I am very excited about, but you don't want to start him in the first game against the Kansas City Chiefs. And Najee Harris is clear to play, so I think he's going to take some touches away. But starting a rookie against Kansas City, I don't think that's very smart play. So I'm sitting him this week. And then Keenan Allen, there's no reason to even have him on your roster. But if you do, he's 33. He's going to be a check down guy. So you don't want him. And Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice is out. So that means that he's going to get a majority of the coverage from the Chargers. And the Chargers were 7th against passing a year ago. So that is not the way the Chargers are going to win this game. So no, I get it backwards. If the Chargers are going to win this game, locking down Worthy is the way it's going to happen. I think that can accomplish that. So make sure you sit here this week.
Okay. Very good. There you go. That's each division covered. We'll do it every week, starts and sits. Make sure you tune in every week for that advice. Let's head into our final segment. We call it the Red Zone. All right, we are introducing a brand new segment this week, thanks to our sponsor over at RotoBot AI. Quick reminder in case you missed it earlier. RotoBot is a AI fantasy football platform that equips users to make decisions faster and smarter. RotoBot AI is able to recognize each user's unique scenario and tailor roster advice based on that, whether it sits and starts, trades, waivers, whatever it may be. RotoBot AI can help you out by connecting your team to it and giving you advice each and every way. Plus, there's all the other great tools that AI with all the data elements on top of all of it as well. So this year, what we're going to try to do each and every week, we're going to try to beat the bot. So we had to ask the bot another question. And the question this week is, who will be the highest scoring fantasy running back in week 1? And we're going to keep a tally on this, and we're going to challenge it throughout the entire season. And so we're going to answer the question too. The bot said Bijan Robinson, and they estimated 21.6 points for Bijan Robinson and PPR league, which is the league we use here at Belly Up Sports as well. Guys, I'll give you mine. It's Saquon Barkley. You talked about it earlier, Brian. The Cowboys made this big deal about needing to stop the run. I just got this feeling like Sirianni's going to say, let's see if they can stop the run. And they're just going to run all over Dallas. I got Saquon scoring 25.2 points this week against the Dallas Cowboys. Kevin, who's your running back that you think is going to score the most for fantasy football this week?
Okay, so I know this is going to sound crazy, but I'm going with James Conner down there in Arizona. I just talked about him a moment ago. Going up against that New Orleans defense, he's going to run all over the place. So I really like what he can put together this week. So I'm going with him.
Do you have a score for me?
Oh, score. I'm going to say he's going to put together 23 fantasy points this week.
All right, 23 for James Conner. All right, Brian, who you got?
Well, Vince, great minds think alike. As much as it pains me and want to make me throw up when I did it, it's going to be Saquon Barkley, the traitor. Look, like you said, that run defense is Dallas is so putrid right now. They're going to just run all over them. I think Nick Sirianni is just going to out-coach Schottenheimer in every aspect of that game. Give me Saquon Barkley, and I say he gets 22.6.
All right, 22.6. That's our tiebreaker, is the score total there as well. And so you can enter into Beat the Bot. It's an unofficial competition. We don't have a sign up for it or anything like that. But just leave your comment on YouTube, leave your comment on Facebook, leave your comment on Twitter, wherever you're watching. Throw the comment out there who you think will be the highest scoring running back in week one, fantasy-wise. Again, RotoBot says it's Bijan Robinson, 21.6. I'm going with Saquon Barkley at 25.2. Kevin goes James Conner at 23. And Brian goes Saquon Barkley at 22.6 as well. All right, gents, we've got fantasy football. I finished my final draft the moments before we came live tonight, snagging a kicker in the final round. But man, we're at it now. So let's talk about content this week, because I know we all got content, football-related content, especially going on this week. Kevin, what do you got going on this week?
Well, tomorrow I'm going to drop an article, starts and sits for the Thursday and Friday games. And just to put this out there, I still don't have any obvious start, because I didn't want to go with guys. If you're going to start Jalen Hurts, you don't need me to tell you that. And so there aren't any other than obvious starts to me in the Thursday game. So I'm still working on that a little bit, but so I've got starts and sits for Thursday. I got starts and sits for Friday. So tomorrow you're definitely going to want to check that out. And if you're like you, then you just did a draft. I've got my article out there of late round guys that can get you value. So if you're doing your draft tomorrow, check that out before you get started. And Friday, we'll be talking Seahawks sessions over there. We'll be talking about the 49ers game and my 3 keys to the game. And who knows what else we talk about over there. And then we got Sunday night, you and I, fantasy baseball. The playoffs have begun. And so we'll have a lot to talk about over there. So you definitely want to check that out.
I love it. All right. And just fair warning, in a moment, I'm going to ask you guys before we sign off, who's the player that you've tried to get in every single league? Who have you successfully gotten in most of your leagues? So think about that for a minute. We'll come back to it in a bit. But Brian, tell everybody about the content you're putting out this week.
So this week I'm going to think either Saturday or Sunday, most likely Saturday, so you can get prepared. I'm going to be dropping the most intriguing players for Sunday and Monday night football. I can't wait for that to write some fantasy football again. 3rd and 10 podcast. We released an episode today breaking down the NFC East and the Giants. And on Thursday, we'll be previewing Giants Commanders. So be on the lookout for that. And as always, you can find all my other work at BrianPG1016 on Twitter.
I like it. This week, I've got a show coming Thursday. We typically go live at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. But guess what? There's going to be football on TV. So we're going to go earlier this week. I don't have an exact time yet, but I think we're going to move the show to probably like 5 o'clock Central Time, 6 o'clock Eastern here moving forward on Thursdays. But it'll be there. The Sports Stove Football Show. You can get it wherever you get your podcasts. You can tune into the Sports Stove Facebook page, the Belly Up Sports Facebook page to catch it live, or the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel. We'll always have it as soon as the episode is done as well. As far as socials go, you can find me at Sports Stove, and I'm probably not going to have time to get any articles out this week, but we got a lot going on content-wise at Belly Up Sports. We have been a brand new show that we've been doing is the Belly Up Sports Mic Check. This week, the latest episode was Brian's co-host, Nathan Nguyen. An absolutely incredible conversation with Nate. I hope that you'll go and check that out. That's on the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel. We have past episodes there as well. We got another one coming out this Sunday with Chris Prince. He heads up our NASCAR division here at Belly Up Sports. He's got a couple shows that he's involved in too. So we'll be talking with him this week for that as well. And then Sunday, as Kevin said, more fantasy baseball. And next Tuesday, right back here to talk week 1 and look ahead to week 2 for fantasy football as well. All right, Kevin, who's the player or players that you've been able to land in pretty much all your leagues?
Well, the guy that I led off the show with, Zach Charbonnet, is the guy that I have targeted and gotten in every draft that I've been in. And like I said, I'm doing this because I was all in on Walker and still believe, fingers crossed like that. But so if something happens to him, then Charbonnet is going to ride to my rescue. And even if he doesn't, that's fine with me. But he's the guy that I have targeted and gotten in every draft I've been in.
I like it. Brian, who have you been able to snag in all your picks?
So I've talked a lot about getting quarterbacks late, and it's Justin Herbert. I've got him in the 10th round or later, and I think every single one of my drafts but one. So very excited with that value. I think it's going to be a top 10 quarterback this year.
I almost snagged him tonight, but he has the same bye week as the quarterback I had. So I had to pass. I had Jaden Daniels in the 3rd round, and I was like, well, I can't do that, so it doesn't help me out at all. The guy that I have targeted and landed in literally every league I'm in is Emeka Egbuka. I'm just all in. I think he's wide receiver 1. I know we've talked about it. Mike Evans is still there. I get it. But injury concerns with the other guys, Egbuka is just, I think he's going to be a dog all season long. And I haven't got him in every league, but Sam Darnold, I've targeted in every league as a backup quarterback. I snagged Penix in a league just because I thought it would be fun as a backup to have Penix sitting there. But Sam Darnold, again, crazy value. If he comes anywhere close to last year, it's going to be an awesome pick. And I've got him in a league where when he plays for my starting quarterbacks bye week, he's playing the Tennessee Titans. So that's looking pretty solid. It's pretty solid too. So I like it a lot. And obviously, Kevin, you're hoping Sam Darnold has a great year.
Absolutely. He blows the doors off the place. And if he does that, then my Cooper Kupp, who I've just about everybody that I've read it is negative on Cooper Kupp. He is going to surprise people this year, and he's going to come close. I'm not saying he's going to be Cooper Kupp of old, but he's going to come close. And then I expect apologies throughout the land.
I'll be one that'll have to apologize because I've been down on Cooper Kupp as well. Speaking of that, next week, now we're going to be recapping and previewing each week. So we're going to talk studs and duds, guys from week 1 who performed well. That maybe we didn't anticipate, and they became studs. Who was supposed to perform well that didn't? We'll lament about that as well. We'll have starts and sits for you for week 2 and some breakdowns of the game, some interesting things that happened, storylines, all that good stuff ready for you every single week on Tuesday nights right here on the Belly Up Sports Network, on the Belly Up Sports Fantasy Live football show for you. Follow us on social media, Belly Up Fantasy and Belly Up Sports. And obviously, always check out the website, bellyupsports.com, and the YouTube channel, Belly Up Sports YouTube, as well, for all kinds of great content, including the 3rd and 10 podcast with Brian and Nate, all of Kevin's guest appearances on the million shows that he appears on throughout the week as well, and the Sports Stove Football Show, of course, there as well. We sure appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Belly Up Sports Fantasy Live Football Show. And next week, oh my goodness, this week is real football. Next week, we're talking about it. Have yourself a wonderful
2 days from right now is football
of the NFL season.
Make sure whatever it is you drink, make sure you have plenty of that, and you have all your food ready to go Sunday morning. So
Thursday night, Friday night,
right?
Got to have Brazilian food Friday night. And then Sunday and Monday, of course, as well. All right, everybody, have a wonderful week. Get those drafts finished. It's time.
That's right. Drafts should be done by now.
All right, see you guys.